Ladies and gentlemen, this is James Ellsworth, and you're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. Remember, any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer.
A warm welcome to episode 83, and our guest this week is the number one Macho Man impersonator, Motch O Mann. That is M-O-T-C-H-O-M-A-N-N, Macho Man Vic Vine. Has got the likeness down so much, the mannerisms, the voice. If you're watching this on YouTube, you are in for a treat because he is in the full get-up of Macho Man 2. Vic can be found as Macho Man at all the conventions, and there was a story that you're going to get to hear actually. He was at Starrcast 2 years ago for AEW Double or Nothing, and he won a cosplay competition, got ringside seats, and there's a story about that because he's dressed up as Macho Man at ringside. There's photo evidence as well, and the fans were amazing with him that night, so you get to hear about that. Vic was a pro wrestler for many years as Vic Divine. He trained on the New York State circuit, then he made his way to OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, which at the time was a developmental for WWE. Down at OVW at the same time as CM Punk. We know how well CM Punk did off the back of training down there. He was also in classes with Jake Hager, Serena Deeb, to name but a few. So without further ado, my guest for episode 83 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast is the number one Macho Man Randy Savage impersonator, Motch O Mann, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. Enjoy. My guest, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, it is the number one Macho Man impersonator, Vic Vine, all the way from Nevada today. Pleasure to have you on. Absolute pleasure.
Oh, yeah. Happy to be here, man. Yeah.
How's things, Vic?
Man, you know, it's a little slower than usual, but it's Vegas, man. You know what I mean? It's Vegas is doing its thing, just a little bit slower than usual.
Have you had a lot of bookings and stuff, or have the bookings died down?
Yeah, unfortunately right now, you know, there's a lot of conventions that were closed that are going to be postponed, and, you know, nobody's really looking to do the whole meet and greet thing in person right now, but I think things are about to pick up.
What are the fans like in the meet and greet scenario when they see you?
You know, it's unbelievable, number one, how many little kids know who Macho Man is. You know what I mean? You know, Macho Man passed away way before they were even born, but yet he's such an icon, and their parents, you know, were big fans of Macho Man. So it's like the minute they're introduced to the visual, they're like hooked on it, man, just like we all were. And it freaks people out, man. Some people are actually like really freaked out by the how spot on the impersonation is. They're like, it's been described as creepy.
I've been at WrestleCons before now, and I've been at WrestleMania week. Have you been at the WrestleCons? Am I right in thinking this?
I've been at a few.
I've seen you. I didn't go over to you, but I thought I've seen Vic in the whole get-up at the WrestleCons over the years when I've been over to the States.
Yeah, the last one were actually the most, a lot of times they do the cosplay contest. So it's like I go in and I'm like, I'm going to make some money, and it's funny that the thing that really got this whole impersonation thing going was, about 2 years ago when AEW had their first show here in Las Vegas in March. It was just about, March, was it? Almost 2 years ago exactly, I believe. And they had this Starrcast or Star.
Yeah, no, it was Starrcast, Vic. Yeah, they ran Starrcast.
So I found out the night before that they were doing a cosplay contest. And it was like early in the morning, and I'm like, oh man, I just found out about it. I'm like, oh, I got to get to that, you know? So I went down looking sharp the way I am right now. And I had no idea what the prize was. I had no idea about anything. I just knew, like, okay, this will be some good exposure. You know what I mean? At the very least, even if I don't win it, it's good exposure, you know? And next thing you know, I won 2 front row tickets to AEW, to the very first AEW pay-per-view.
Double or Nothing, I believe.
That's right.
That was the one. How was that being in attendance for that?
Man, number one, like all the years that I've been a wrestling fan, going back since I was like 10 years old, I've never gotten a front row seat to, you know, a WWE event or a big event. And I had front row, man, like sitting right behind the timekeeper's or the bell, you know, the timekeeper's table there. And the announcer, you know, Justin Roberts, was sitting like 2 feet away from me, and he turned around and he was like, he was popping huge for the gimmick. And I was wearing the 80s gimmick, man. I had on the, you know, the purple shirt and the big white, you know, glasses and everything. Yeah. You know, that's my, I wore this for the contest, and then I figured I'd dress down a little bit. You know, I didn't have to go in character. I didn't have to go in character, but I figured it'd be a good idea. And, man, it was great, man. I mean, the show was awesome, and just being there in the front row. I had 2 seats because I couldn't find anybody in that short amount of time to go with me.
Oh,
so
I wish I was in Vegas. I could have sat with you, man.
I know, man. I know. Somebody tried to sit next to me. Somebody tried to, you know, move on in. I stood up for a second. I turned around, and there was a dude sitting there. And if it was a hot chick, I would have said no problem. But I had to tell him to take a hike, man. He's cramping my style.
What were the fans like with you around the ringside area where you were? Did they come over? Did you have some photos of the guys and the fans and the patrons at the event?
Man, I'll tell you what, man. When I was walking in, you know, I was being walked in by the usher to show me where my seats were, and you know, I'm walking through, and the whole stands. You know what I mean? Like I'm walking in between the sections of the floor and the raised seats, you know, and people are going nuts, man. They're cheering and they're going Macho Man and they're going, oh yeah, and I'm like just, you know, eating it up, man. I'm doing the whole thing, and it definitely it got a lot of I got noticed. Let's say that, man. And there was a guy that was like a few seats down from me, or a few rows away, and he was dressed as Jesus. And he was getting a lot of attention, obviously. I mean, you know, he fit the gimmick, you know. And we were going back and forth, man. Like Jesus was challenging Macho Man to a match. It was just crazy. So yeah, there was entertainment in the ring, and there was definitely entertainment, you know, in the stands.
I bet you buzz off it, like just when the people are around. And I bet it's incredible. I can only imagine how it feels when you have that attention when you're all in the gimmick, man.
I love it, man. Honestly, like it almost feels like you know, like it sounds weird and everything, but it's almost like I'm channeling, you know, Macho Man. You know what I mean? Almost like I kind of like warp into him. You know what I mean? I get so into the character, and even after I'm done, it's hard for me to like get out of the character, man. I swear. Like you hear things like that about people doing movies, but you know, I'll notice like afterwards, you know, it'll be hard to like kind of like shake off the voice and the mannerisms. It's like, wait a minute, you know, it sticks, you know, but I love it though, man. I feel more comfortable being Mach than I do being myself, man. I go out in public a lot of times. You know, I've gone out like this, man. I'm just, you know, not on Halloween, just a regular day. I'm there pumping gas, and people are just, you know. But then again, man, it's Vegas, so people might, you know, look for a second and go, "It's Vegas," you know.
It's understandable.
Yeah, right.
I want to talk about you as a kid watching pro wrestling, and obviously your first memories of seeing Macho Man, of seeing him.
Right.
Like memories, like.
Well, from what I can remember, man, I was, guess I was 11 years old, and I started out as a Hulkamaniac, because at the time Macho Man wasn't there yet. And the first time that I was exposed to wrestling was the actual, it was the first WrestleMania. That was the first, first glance that I got. My dad was watching it. My dad was a wrestling fan. I had no idea, I didn't know anything about wrestling. He didn't kind of kind of get me into it. He was just into it. And I just happened to see what he was watching, and it just hooked me, and I'm watching. And the thing that hooked me was I was watching it for a little bit. I remember some of the matches lower on the card, but it was the main event with how much, like fan reaction, like Hogan and Mr. T got. And, I didn't really know who anybody was. I just saw the reaction that Hulk Hogan got. And it was just like the ovation and that sound. It was like, it gave me goosebumps right away. And I said, whatever this is that I'm watching, this is what I need to do. I need to be a wrestler. I want to be like that big guy. And that big guy was Hulk Hogan. And I said, you know what? Like, this is my calling. You find out like 10, 11 years old. I think a lot of people figure out, or at least partially, what they want to do when they grow up. And there was no doubt in my mind that when I saw wrestling for the first time, man, it was like, and it wasn't the wrestling. It was like, even before the wrestling happened, man, just the reaction of the people and these characters in the ring. I didn't even know what I was watching. You know what I mean? And I was like, whatever this is, man, it looks cool, and I'm doing that.
Which matches of Randy's were the ones that you can still put on today? I think I've got a funny feeling which one of these will be. Some of the matches of the Macho Man that you can still watch today that you hold in high esteem. I think I've got a good idea what you're going to say here.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it goes without mentioning the WrestleMania 3, Read Your Mind,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% Steamboat, yeah, which I was too young. I was too young at the time. I was only one at the time here in the UK. So,
right.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it years later. So
I remember watching that match at a friend's house. It was pay-per-view, and it was a bunch of us kids in the neighborhood, and we all got together and watched. And like you said, I was a kid, man, so I liked Macho Man, but not because of the great wrestler he was, because what did I know? I thought Hulk Hogan was great. You know what I mean? Everybody was looking forward to the Hulk Andre match, of course, with the build-up and, watching Saturday mornings, every morning and seeing this build-up happen, man. It was like, that was the big deal. Nobody, me or none of my friends realized that when we were watching the Steamboat match, the Savage and Steamboat match, that we were watching the greatest, the greatest match we were going to see.
It's just incredible how it holds up today. It's just like, look how much wrestling we've had since, and the way the business has changed, from then to now, and it's just a masterclass, isn't it?
Yeah, the funny thing is about the way wrestling is today is that today's fan or today's wrestler would watch that and say that it was boring. You know what I mean? Because they don't understand how much that's a match. You know what I mean? That's psychology. That's greatness. You don't see 20 dives off the top rope and no selling and this and that. And today, that's kind of like what people think are good matches. If you're in the wrestling business and you don't realize that that's the greatest match of all time, you don't belong in the wrestling business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, fast forward into you wrestled for many years, as I'm assuming as Vic Vine, but I'm going to come to find out now. So just coming away from doing the gimmick and the persona that you do today, how did you get your start in professional wrestling?
Well, what happened was, like I said, I always wanted to be a wrestler, and I had absolutely no idea how you become a wrestler because there was no internet. That's how old I am. I'm a dinosaur. There was no internet back then. And all I knew was that I had this this passion for wrestling because I just started watching it religiously. You know what I mean? Since I was a kid. And I just knew that like I wanted to be a wrestler and I was going to be a wrestler and I wanted to look like a wrestler. And so, you know, I started working out and, you know, I had a friend of mine who was a bodybuilder that was looking to go pro and he taught me everything. We worked out together. We ate together. I mean, he morphed me into Vic D. That was my, you know, my wrestling name. And, I mean, I was big, you know, I went from being a skinny kid to being, you know, a wrestler looking guy. And I think that look is very important. I knew that at the very beginning. And because of that, I was always the most impressive looking in the locker room because, you know, guys were very indie-rific, you know what I mean? Just as they are today. They just didn't look like athletes and they weren't, you know, they didn't have ring gear that was professional. You know what I mean? I spent money that I didn't have. I think I'm still paying for my boots today. And that was like 20 some years ago. But the way that I got my start, man, I just got a job working at the gym that I was working out at. And I got to know the owner and the owner asked me if I wanted a job there. He was looking for somebody and was working at a gas station at the time. I quit the gas station, started working at the gym because that was like my whole life, man. Everything was about like getting big and, you know, fitness and nutrition and, you know, started learning a lot. And so I took him up on his offer and we were just talking one day. It was after he hired me and we're just, you know, the gym was slow and we're talking. He just wanted to get to know me. And he said, you know, so what do you want to, I guess I was about 21. And he goes, so, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know what I mean? When I grow up, I'm 20, but I'm, you know, far from a grown up. Yeah. Even as I am right now, far from a grown up. And I never told a lot of people, man. There was only like very, very close friends that knew that I loved wrestling and wanted to be a wrestler. But, you know, it wasn't the way it was. It wasn't as accepted in mainstream as it is today. You know what I mean? Like everybody's, you know, wanting to be a wrestler. Back then, I kind of kept it quiet, and I didn't even tell my parents that I wanted to be a wrestler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they knew because I was such a fan. But what ended up happening was I for whatever reason, you know, I told the guy that hired me, I told him what I wanted to do. And it was weird to me that I even told him because, you know, like I said, my own family didn't know that was my desire. And he goes, oh, there's a guy that works out here who's a wrestler. I should introduce you to him. And his name was Shark Attack Kid. He was not Shark Boy, but Shark Attack Kid. He was in the Indies. And he did some ECW stuff and, you know, was doing a lot of indie work on the East Coast. That's where I'm originally from. This took place in New York. And he introduced me to him, and I told him, you know, wrestling is my dream. I have no idea how to get into it. Would you accept, you know, training me? And it was just meant to be, man. He saw my passion, and he said absolutely. And you know, the next week, man, we were down at Mikey Whipwreck's little school.
Wow, incredible.
In Long Island. And that actually wasn't the very first time. I was so excited, man, just to even like touch a ring, you know. And we got down there and the ring was taken apart because one of the boards had snapped. And so my first day of training never happened. And it wasn't until I think a couple weeks later that Vinny found another place in Brooklyn. And we went over there and that was it, man. We started, you know, day one of learning how to bump. And shoot, man, the next thing you know, 13 years later or something like that, I don't know exactly, you know, I was doing it that whole time and loving it, man.
How easy or hard was it learning the craft, learning the moves, learning how to do it? Did you take to it like a duck to water, or was it quite tough learning that side of the business, learning how to wrestle?
Man, I wish I could say that I picked it up right away, but I'm not a very fast learner, you know, even though I've been watching it for so many years, but I always watched it as entertainment and watched the characters and the, you know, the visual and the, you know, obviously, my gift is being able to watch these characters and then do impressions of them. You know what I mean? But I wish that I was able to watch Randy Savage and be able to do an impersonation of his matches and pick it up that quick. But I was very slow at learning, and it took a while, man. But when it clicked, you know, whatever it was that I was working on, you know, like the bumping came first. Of course, my elbows were swollen because I kept on spiking the mat, and you know, it took a while, man. It took a lot of ice on my elbows and stuff like that. But once I got it, man, you know, I could bump like nobody's business, you know. Take a great so, you know, little by little, man, things came you know, they came slow, but when I got it, man, things were on point.
That's cool, man. 13 years doing it, man. Where were some of the places you went? You know, how far? I'm assuming across America doing that full. And you were doing it full time as well. It was a full time job.
Well, not as full time as I would have liked it to be. You know, it wasn't paying the bills, obviously, on the indies. You know what I mean? It's you know, you're lucky if you get paid at all. There was a couple times that got stiffed. Believe it or not, promoters stiffing wrestlers, right? Yeah, believe me, it happens. You'd be surprised. But like I said, I started in New York and was working up and down the East Coast. You know what I mean? Made my way to Jersey, met some people in Jersey, started traveling with them, getting booked. I think, you know, it was mainly on the East Coast. So from everywhere from like New York all the way to like Maine. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That was kind of like, you know, I'd worked everywhere, you know, Delaware and Massachusetts and pretty much everywhere, you know, Northeast. And in 2005, OVW, the WWE's developmental system at that time, they were doing tryouts and they were doing camps and stuff like that. And it was like everybody from my area, man, everybody I knew from Jersey had moved down there, man. Like they moved down on their own dime just to train there, just to try to get signed. And I was one of them, man. I went down there on my own dime. You know, I was told, you know, yeah, you could come down here if you want, but you got to pay for the training, and you know, you're not under contract. And so, you know, without even thinking twice, man, I packed up my car, whatever would fit, and I drove 28. What was it? 14 hours, was it? Something like that. From New York to Louisville, Kentucky. And started in the beginner's class, even though I had like 10 years, you know, under my belt or whatever it was at that time, or a little bit more than that. And the next thing you know, I'm in Rip Rogers' class, you know, who was actually trained by Macho Man, which is just unbelievable, you know, that he was his roommate, you know what I mean? And here I am being trained by him and hearing stories about Macho Man. And Al Snow was one of my trainers. I had, you know, showed that I wanted it. And Danny Davis, who was the owner of OVW, he saw that I wanted it, and I came to him and I said, hey, I want to, you know, I'd really like to work on your TV program. On Wednesdays, they had their TV. And he told me to show up with my gear the next week, man. And the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You know what I mean? A lot of guys sat back and didn't ask Danny. They were a little intimidated by him. It was like my second week there, and I was like, hey, Danny, I'm hungry, brother. I want to be on your TV show. And so I had a pretty good, pretty decent run in OVW, but I was there from 2005 to 2007, and I got a little frustrated because whenever the office was coming down, in the beginning, they were checking out everybody that was in the advanced class, you know what I mean, where all the contracted guys were. I was in class with, CM Punk and Jake, Jack Hager.
Swagger, Jake Hager, yeah.
Right. A lot of guys were, I was training with them. And I think the office, saw me like twice or whatever. I did promos and stuff. That was always my strong, my strong point. So I looked forward to doing promos, and other people were kind of like, oh man, it's promo day, or, we got to do promos for the office. And it seemed like I was, getting some steam, you know what I mean? I would look like, that people were starting to take notice. And then all of a sudden, the office said that they weren't interested in seeing anybody that wasn't under contract whenever they came down. So it's like, well, I just moved my whole life down here for that reason.
That's crazy, Vic. That is crazy that happened. Like, you just think you're there to do it. You want to do it. You wanted to get to the next level. And that's crazy to me, listen to you telling it.
And, there seemed to be hope before that, because a lot of guys, Santino Marella was down at OVW, didn't have a contract when he came down there. He got a contract because the office liked him. Serena D, she was down there.
Fantastic. She's fantastic, that girl. I'm glad she's getting showcased on AEW at the moment. I know she's done NWA and all the stuff over the years, man. Serena Deeb's a good hand, man. You watch her, and the younger girls can look out. Look to her, man. Sorry, Vic, I jumped in.
No, it's fine, man.
I dived in, and I didn't mean to do that.
Not at all, man. It's like she was like 18, man, just starting out, and she was unbelievable. She just got it, man.
Yeah.
She was really she was one of Rip's favorite students, man, because she just was natural at it. I wish that I picked it up the way she did. She could out wrestle me like you wouldn't believe, man. She was just I've seen her do like an hour, just calling it in the ring completely, man. I mean, she didn't have a contract, and she got picked up, while she was down there. So I'm thinking, okay, they are signing people, you know what I mean? I'm in the right place. And then they kind of, there was a few people, that got signed, and there was a few that didn't. Pat Buck, who now works for WWE as a road agent or whatever he is, phenomenal wrestler, man, and always changing up his gimmick and always doing something new. And they wouldn't sign him, you know what I mean? And he deserved it. And he got frustrated, but he didn't give up, you know what I mean? And now look at the position that he's in, you know what I mean? But for me, man, it was like, all right, it was time to move on. I figured that I'm down there. I'm only in Kentucky for, that one reason. And if I'm not going to be getting signed, there's no point in me staying here. It's time to, before I get too old, I got to try to figure out what else I can do, because it was all that I ever wanted to do, So, pretty much, I thought I was done with my wrestling. I figured I'm going to leave it here in Kentucky and I'm going to move on. Thought about moving back to New York. But a friend of mine that I was friends with from back in New York, when we started training at the ECPW school in New Jersey, that's where I met him, because later on, after, I'd say about, 2-3 years training under Shark Attack Kid, I moved on and started training at ECPW, and made a lot of friends there, man. Those were the guys that really took me with them to go work at the places that they were working at and stuff like that. But one of my best friends, he moved to Las Vegas And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, hey, man, I think I'm going to get out of here. And, you know, I don't know where to go. I don't want to go back to New York. I already, you know, been there, done that. And he said, well, come out to Vegas, man. Come live out here. You're an entertainer. You know, get a job in a show or something. And I said, wow, all right, you know. And that's how I ended up here, man. I said, I'm done with wrestling, and I'm going to move on and stay in entertainment. I'm 4 hours from, you know, LA.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like my backup plan, you know, of course, like every other wrestler, you know, get into acting and, you know, because I love the entertainment business. So I figured it's, you know, it's a good fit for me. And kind of like everything, my plan had kind of gone exactly the way that I had, you know, set it out to be. Moved to Vegas, still, you know, it's hard to get away from wrestling. Next thing you know, I'm finding out about wrestling organizations out here, and I'm working on shows, and I'm like, what am I doing? I thought I was done. But I ended up getting a job at the Tournament of Kings show, which is like the medieval times, you know, the horses and the jousting and the eating with your hands and all that stuff. So I was lucky enough to actually get a job as a performer in front of an audience, which is something that I was, you know, definitely feeling a void from without wrestling. And little by little, I was able to get off that wrestling drug. You know, it was kind of like, you know, it started to not be as fun for me. I kind of like started to lose the desire to perform in that way. My body started to tell me that, you know, you're getting older, and you know, it's taking you longer to recover in between matches. And yeah, and that was that.
That's incredible. What a story, though, man. You touched upon CM Punk. Could you have foreseen Phil Brooks, CM Punk, getting to the level he got to when you were down at OVW with him? Could you see that guy had something whereby he was going to take it to the next stratosphere? Because we had John Cena. You know, Punk had been around for a while, hadn't he? You know, he'd been up there a good 4 or 5 years on the main roster. But could you have foreseen it, Vic, in 2005, that he was going to go to the next level as a performer?
The only reason why I say yes is because Paul Heyman was writing the TV. And he loved CM Punk. You know, CM Punk is a Paul Heyman guy. And it was like every week the main event was Brent Albright and CM Punk.
Yeah.
You know, they had this long, you know, program going, and unbelievable matches. And the business was kind of changing at that time, where wrestlers were starting to look, in my opinion, you know, less like
with the physique
wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Batista was kind of like on top at that time, but you could see that was, you know, other guys like, you know, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. I think Daniel Bryan may have came a little bit later on. And he wasn't down at OVW. I'm just naming names that kind of like indie guys.
Set the mold.
You know,
Yeah.
They started, like they used to, WWE had no interest in anybody who worked on the indies at, you know, that time. They wanted to grow their own talent. That's why they had a developmental. And CM Punk was like the only guy that they took from the indies. You know, he was on the indies since he was like 15. You know what I mean? And WWE started to bring guys in slowly from the indies. And I don't think that The Office was as big on CM Punk as Paul Heyman was. And Paul Heyman kind of just, you know, made it happen for him. So I didn't really know whether or not it was going to happen. But it happened, man. It really did. You know, he was that transition. You know, we went from like the Hulk Hogan's to like the Bret Harts and the Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? And then, you know, every decade or so, the wrestlers kind of like, you know, what a wrestler was is not what a wrestler is anymore. You know what I mean? So it was changing. And now CM Punk was kind of like, he was great on the mic, man. And that was something that the roster was lacking that for a while.
It was just incredible, especially that run. I even go back to like when he was winning Money in the Bank and things like that. You know, he was always put in that position. But, you know, when you think how big Cena was, and in terms of merch sales and things like that, Vic, it's just incredible what he managed to achieve. And, you know, some people say about bad attitude, but he had a vision, didn't he, further on in WWE? And, you know, WWE weren't akin to that. You know, I was out in New York for WrestleMania 29 when he was against Undertaker. Incredible match, but they said about his poor attitude, Vic. But he obviously didn't like the direction they were taking him in. So, you know, he wasn't one of them guys that would keep his mouth shut. If he had a problem, he vented, I think. But maybe that shot him in the foot a little bit, where they might have put the gold back on him.
Well, one thing I could say, like knowing CM Punk while I was down there, you know what I mean? I actually had a match with him, you know, and it was a title match. He had the OVW title at the time. And, I had a match with him. Didn't win. He got lucky. But he's as real as real could be in a world of phony, you know, BS. He is exactly what you see on TV, man. If he's got something on his mind, he's gonna say it. He is a straight edge guy. I worked when I was down at OVW. I was working at a bar, and the guys would come in, and he didn't drink, he didn't smoke. He spoke his mind, man. And he was quite popular with the ladies too, man. He had a real good track record. Let me tell you, man.
The debate, that's the debate. What does CM stand for? We've heard shit magnet. We've heard all sorts of different stuff, man. That no one can take that away from him, Vic. He's always had
you, man.
He always had the ladies on his arm. We knew from like internet wrestling on the chat rooms and that. He was hitting home runs with the ladies, Vic.
My God, man, he was with Maria.
Yeah.
When we were down there.
Very nice looking lady.
Now he's with AJ and she's hot. And he was with Lita and he was with chicks dig him. Chicks dig CM Punk, man.
Even before TNA, Tracy Brooks.
Right.
Yeah, man. He's just like we could probably find out more women actually, but yeah, man.
Oh my God, man. I mean, you know, I admire his wrestling and I admire his mic skills and I admire him as a person because of like he's real, man. You know what I mean? And that confidence that he shows on TV when he says he's the best in the world, like he means it. When he's saying it, man, there's truth behind that. He believes it. And that's not a character, man. Everybody likes the CM Punk character. What they don't understand is that that's him, man. And he's an awesome guy. Right.
I'm going to segue now into you being Macho Man and doing the impersonating. And also the gear. I've got to ask about the gear. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Look at the detail in the gear. How much does it cost to have the get-up, Vic? How much does that cost you to set all that up? Because that can't come cheap. You know, you've got to look the real deal, and you do, man. You're a dead ringer for the legend that is Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Well, thank you for that. And here's the thing, man. I go to Goodwill and I go to the dollar store and I'll just see things and I'll find things and I'll go, okay, you know, I could do something with this and I could do something with that. This jacket here. This was just a plain, black and pink jacket, you know, like that, shiny material in the women's section. You know what I mean? It was actually very, very small. It was a very, it was very tight. Could hardly put it on, but I said, man, that jacket is, you know, I could do something with that for sure. And so I bought the jacket. It was like, I don't know, maybe like $15 or whatever it was. And I made some friends in the wardrobe department at Tournament of Kings when I was working there. and a few of them helped me out with making my stuff. I got I got tights that were just regular tights that I actually it was a pair of plain black tights that I actually got for free, because that was one of the things that we wore underneath our stuff at Tournament of Kings. So I asked if I could get a pair of the black plain black tights, and I would buy shirts and just things that had a cool pattern on it. A women's blouse or something like that had like a cool pattern or was cool material, and I would just buy these things. And so I just pretty much gave all this material and stuff like that to one of the wardrobe people that I had become friends with. Showed her a couple pictures of Macho Man. There was actually two people that helped make my stuff from the wardrobe department there at the show. And I said, hey man, if you give me a price of what you charge to make some cool stuff. And showed them some pictures, and they just they're just talented at what they do, man. And next thing you know, I got this awesome thing with the fringe, and it says Macho Man on the back. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's great. The viewers will appreciate that. They will be listening to this episode as well on Spotify and Apple. But yeah, and I will tell people to check the YouTube video out to see in your full regalia.
Oh, right.
The whole kit and caboodle right in front of them.
Yeah, if they're not checking out the visual along with hearing it, man, they're doing themselves a disservice.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, that's the deal with the. I have a bag full of material, man. Like just random stuff. I saw a bunch of shiny gold stuff, and I said, all right, well, I got my Macho King stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just waiting for my wardrobe people to have some free time and make all kinds of new stuff.
That's brilliant, man. I love it. It's brilliant. I love the nostalgia element of the business. Like I started watching in 1990 over in the UK, but we didn't get like even in the 80s when I was too young to know what was going on. We didn't get the territories over here, where you got all the territories and saw all these guys previous to WWF. We didn't know. We just thought Mr. Perfect turned up and that was his first job in the business.
Right.
Yeah, when we were kids, we didn't know any different. Whereas like I speak to a guy over in the States and he's like, I was watching AWA in the 80s. I saw Kurt Hennig, I saw all those guys prior. It's just crazy. It's just crazy, man. I love that era, the 80s, 90s. It's still my favorite. Forget the Attitude Era, Vic. I like all that era. Absolutely.
Me too, man. Like I said, I started watching in the the golden era? No, the golden era.
Yeah, golden era, man. Yeah.
Right, Hulk Hogan, and and then the new generation, and I got into the whole like Shawn Michaels, and there was that bad period of the golden era, not the golden era, the new generation, when guys like TL Hopper, you know what I mean, and they went through some bad times during that whole scandal, but I stayed loyal, man. I was always a WWF guy, and as soon as I saw Macho Man, I became a Macho Man fan right away. He took Hulk Hogan's place as far as my favorite, and again, it wasn't because of the wrestling. I didn't know wrestling, I just knew that this guy that come out and do these promos with this voice and the mannerisms, and Elizabeth, of course, who didn't have a crush on Elizabeth?
Oh, my days, even when I was a youngster, when I was not long out of nappies. Absolutely incredible stuff, man.
And I loved the Attitude Era as well. Like I stayed loyal. I never watched WCW. Never got into it.
We watched it. We used to get, obviously you get it on a Monday over there. We used to get Raw on a Friday here on Sky, and we also had TNT, which Cartoon Network changed over to TNT at night. So we watched a little bit of Nitro as well, me and my cousin. But I've always been like yourself. It's WWF. But I did watch a bit of Nitro, but I also, prior to that, I used to watch WCW Worldwide prior, like 91, 92, 93. But yeah,
Yeah, I always looked at WCW as like I just thought like, you know, again, I really didn't know as much as I do now about wrestling and about, you know, the territories and about like, you know, that WCW was NWA and that it was, you know, to me it was just like, you know, WCW or NWA or anything other than WWF was like the minor leagues, and I had no interest in watching. Like I knew who Ric Flair was, but I was like, this guy doesn't interest me. You know what I mean? It was like, I guess there was more like wrestlers there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
guys like Arn Anderson.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was more of a character guy. You know what I mean? I liked guys that were over the top characters and you know the costuming and the, you know, whatever. So the only time that I started to watch any WCW was when this NWO thing formed, and it seemed as if the NWO was all WWE or WWF guys that were jumping ship. So I was like, this is kind of interesting. Who's leaving? You know what I mean? Because it started with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and I was like, wow, what's going on here? And then they started recruiting more former WWF guys. So that I started doing the you know, the channel
hopping,
clicking back and forth.
Absolutely.
That was it, man.
We were all doing it. I think it was like, wow, it's just incredible. Vic, where can we find you in terms of social media with the Macho Man stuff? Just to tell the listeners, the viewers, where they can find you. I'm going to plug the heck out of everything that you do. I know you can't wait to do the appearances again once we're fully functional after the pandemic. So yeah, so close out, man. Plug your stuff. Absolutely.
All right. Well, it's all in the spelling, man. It's MOTCHOMANN. If you Google that with the correct spelling, I'm sure all my social media will pop up. But I'll tell you now, if you go to Motch, MOTCHO, tweet, that's my Twitter, obviously. And then Motch O Graham is my Instagram. And if you just put in Motch O Mann on Facebook, you'll find a couple pages. We got the Macho Man fan page, and then there's also a Motch World Order page. That's, I mean, there's a lot of like Facebook. I think I have 100 different Facebook pages. So if it's spelt that way, it's real. You're in
the right ballpark. Absolutely.
Right.
My first guest, actually, we're nearly on 80 episodes of this podcast. My first guest from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Vic Vine. He was known as Vic Divine when he was wrestling many years ago. He is the Macho Man. I'm going to get that right. Impersonator, the #1 impersonator of the Macho Man, Randy Savage. No question. You might have seen some other guys trying to replicate it. This guy replicates the legend of Randy Savage perfectly. It's on point.
Thank you, brother.
How it should be. How it should be.
Thank you.
The fantastic Macho Man there. Uncanny how much he is like Randy Savage. To keep the voice up throughout the interview as well, incredible. And then Vic Vine was also wrestling, as you got to hear there. It was incredible to hear about his time in OVW. What a lovely guy, so humble, and we can't wait for him to get back on the convention scene. And just great hearing about his story, being at Double or Nothing in 2019 and winning the competition and sitting ringside for that first event with AEW. That was my guest for episode 83, and you can find Vic at MOTCHOMANN, which is Macho Man, on all social media. You can even type it into Google to find him. A big thank you to Chris Dutton for editing again. Fantastic job. Thank you to Powered 4 as well for all their support. Thank you, Rich and John. Thank you to Evade Escape as well for the music in the intro and the outro. And we will see you in a couple of weeks for the next episode. Thank you. Take care.